Have you ever felt like you're playing a chess game in your family, but you're the only one who doesn't know the rules? It's a bewildering sensation, isn't it? When every interaction within the family nexus feels less like a simple conversation and more like a complex strategy unfolding around you, and you're always a move behind. You, the seeker, are often the one grappling with the unseen complexities, trying to decipher unspoken meanings, and agonizing over every potential outcome. This deep level of engagement, your profound empathy and analytical mind, are traits you likely pride yourself on, seeing them as cornerstones of your character. Yet, what if these very strengths, when left unchecked, transform into an invisible vulnerability, making you an unwitting pawn in a game you never signed up for? Within the inner sanctum of your mind, a constant stream of thoughts churns. You meticulously replay conversations, dissecting tones, analyzing facial expressions, and searching for hidden agendas. You consider every possible perspective, striving to understand where each family member is coming from, even the architect of manipulation, whose influence you might not yet fully grasp. This introspective journey, while noble in its intent, often leads to a state of mental paralysis. You become so entangled in the web of possibilities that articulating a clear boundary, or even a simple personal preference, feels like trying to navigate a dense fog in downtown San Francisco without a map. The sheer volume of internal processing leaves you exhausted, often silent, and feeling utterly powerless precisely when you need your voice the most. It's a little-known psychological truth that individuals with high emotional intelligence and a strong propensity for overthinking are paradoxically more susceptible to subtle manipulation from those within their closest circles. Imagine it. Your finely tuned ability to sense emotions, to anticipate reactions, and to empathize deeply becomes the very lever that the architect of manipulation can unknowingly or subconsciously use to sway your decisions, influence your feelings, and ultimately control the narrative within the family nexus. They aren't necessarily malicious masterminds. Often they're simply operating from ingrained patterns, seeking validation or maintaining a familiar family dynamic. But the effect on the seeker is profound and often debilitating. You spend so much time in the inner sanctum trying to understand everyone else that you forget to protect your own mental real estate. This isn't about fault or blame. It's about recognizing a pervasive pattern that keeps countless empathetic, analytical individuals feeling stuck and unheard. Your tendency to overthink every scenario, to consider all sides of an argument, to anticipate potential conflicts, can leave you unable to respond effectively in the moment. While the architect of manipulation might deliver a seemingly innocuous comment at the Thanksgiving dinner table, your mind immediately sprints through 1,000 permutations of its meaning, its implications, and its potential impact on family harmony. By the time you've processed it all, the moment to respond has passed, leaving you with a lingering sense of frustration and self-reproach. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a constant erosion of your self-confidence and emotional autonomy. The insidious nature of this dynamic lies in its subtlety. There are no overt threats, no glaring injustices that you can easily point to and say, "This is wrong." Instead, it's a series of microaggressions, guilt trips disguised as concern, or passive-aggressive remarks that leave you questioning your own perception. The architect of manipulation might use phrases like, "I'm just worried about you, dear," or "we only want what's best for the family," to mask their underlying agenda, which often involves maintaining control or ensuring you conform to their expectations. Because you, the seeker, are so adept at seeing the good in people, at giving them the benefit of the doubt, you struggle to identify these subtle tactics for what they truly are. Your internal processor gets stuck in an endless loop of, "What if I'm wrong? What if they really mean well, leading directly to mental paralysis? This constant internal struggle prevents you from setting firm boundaries, from speaking your truth, and from protecting your emotional well-being. You might find yourself agreeing to things you don't want to do, simply to avoid conflict or to spare someone else's feelings. You might swallow your objections, believing that voicing them would only escalate the situation, or that your family wouldn't understand your perspective anyway. This isn't just being nice or considerate, it's becoming a hostage to your own thoughts, trapped in the inner sanctum while the world and the family nexus continues to operate around you, often at your expense. The emotional toll of this perpetual overthinking and self-sacrifice is immense, leading to burnout, resentment, and a profound sense of disconnection from your authentic self. Many seekers mistakenly believe that their overthinking is a form of strategic thinking, a way to navigate complex relationships with grace and foresight. They see it as a sign of their intelligence and empathy, a necessary tool for maintaining peace within the family nexus. But when it leads to inaction, to silence, to a constant state of internal debate that prevents you from asserting yourself, it ceases to be a strength. Instead, it becomes a cage, locking you into patterns of behavior that benefit others while slowly diminishing your own sense of self-worth and agency. It's time to realize that your deep thought, while powerful, can be weaponized against you, not by malice, but by the very dynamics you're trying so hard to understand and appease. This journey isn't about turning off your empathy or becoming cold and calculating. It's about recalibrating your internal compass, understanding the hidden mechanisms at play, and transforming your profound analytical abilities from a vulnerability into an impenetrable shield. We will explore how to identify the subtle cues, decode the unspoken rules, and most importantly, equip you with the strategic principles to dismantle mental paralysis and reclaim your power within the family nexus. You are not destined to be perpetually overwhelmed. You possess the capacity to navigate these interactions with clarity, confidence, and unshakable boundaries. The time has come to stop playing by rules you don't understand and start writing your own. What if the very trait you pride yourself on, your ability to analyze everything, is precisely what's being used against you without you even realizing it? The realization hits you like a cold splash of water, not in a grand, dramatic confrontation, but in the quiet, insidious moments that define your family interactions. You, the seeker, know this feeling intimately, the gnawing sensation in the inner sanctum when a seemingly simple request from the architect throws your entire mental landscape into disarray. It starts subtly, perhaps a text message on a Tuesday afternoon, casually inquiring about your availability for a family gathering 3 states away during a long holiday weekend, like the 4th of July or Thanksgiving. A weekend you had already meticulously planned for yourself. The message itself might be innocuous, framed with warmth and the presumption of your eagerness. "It would mean the world to us if you could make it," it might read, or "We're just not complete without you there." And that's where the loop begins. The message sits in your inbox, a digital ticking bomb in the family nexus, while your mind, the inner sanctum, explodes with possibilities. You agonize. You replay the words, dissecting each syllable, searching for hidden meanings, unspoken expectations. Is it truly a request or an unspoken command? What if you say no? What will the architect think? Will they be disappointed? Will they talk about it behind your back? You envision the ripple effect, the subtle sighs, the knowing glances, the hushed tones among other family members. Your empathy, a trait you value deeply, becomes a weapon turned inward. You imagine the architect's face, their potential sadness, and a wave of guilt washes over you, heavy as a weighted blanket. This isn't just about a holiday trip. It's about every seemingly small concession, every time you've swallowed your true feelings to maintain a fragile peace. You remember the time the architect needed help moving furniture across town, a task that consumed your entire weekend, leaving you exhausted and behind on your own commitments, all because you couldn't find the words to decline. Or the instance when a casual family conversation about your career choices turned into an hour-long interrogation, punctuated by suggestions that felt more like directives, leaving you mentally drained and questioning your own judgment. You walked away from those encounters feeling hollowed out, as if a piece of your autonomy had been chipped away, only to be replaced by a lingering resentment. The unique intimacy of family amplifies these issues to an almost unbearable degree. It's not a stranger on the street asking for a favor. It's someone who has known you your entire life, someone whose love and concern feel inextricably linked to their expectations. This makes manipulation incredibly difficult to identify, let alone resist, because it often comes wrapped in the comforting blanket of affection, tradition, or genuine, albeit misguided, care. "I'm only telling you this because I love you," the architect might say, or "this is just how we do things in our family," invoking a sense of duty that feels impossible to defy without feeling like a traitor to your own blood. You, the seeker, are particularly susceptible to this, your analytical mind constantly seeking to understand, to empathize, to find the good intention, even when the outcome is detrimental to your own well-being. This internal struggle creates a profound mental paralysis. You feel trapped, unable to act, unable to articulate the boundaries you desperately need to set. The fear of conflict, of disappointing the architect, or of disrupting the delicate ecosystem of the family nexus becomes an insurmountable barrier. You find yourself nodding along to unreasonable demands, agreeing to commitments that stretch you thin, or silently enduring conversations that chip away at your self-worth, all while your inner sanctum screams in protest. This isn't just discomfort, it's a deep, aching pain, a betrayal of self that slowly erodes your confidence and sense of agency. You become a passenger in your own life, steered by the subtle currents of familial expectations rather than the captain of your own ship. You see your friends and colleagues setting clear boundaries, saying no with confidence, and wonder why it feels like an alien concept within your own family unit. It's a pervasive problem, this feeling of being perpetually stuck, a deer in headlights when confronted with even the slightest familial pressure. The weight of anticipated judgment, the imagined fallout, binds you tighter than any physical restraint. You might replay a past conversation for hours, dissecting every word, every facial expression, trying to figure out what you could have said differently, how you could have avoided the conflict, or how you could have pleased the architect without sacrificing so much of yourself. This obsessive re-evaluation, this constant second-guessing, is the hallmark of your mental paralysis. It ensures you remain in a state of suspended animation, unable to move forward, unable to truly express your authentic self. The cycle perpetuates. Overthink, feel guilty, concede, resent, then overthink again the next time. This pain, this silent struggle, is a testament to the powerful, often invisible forces at play within the closest bonds. But why do we fall into these traps? Is it merely a personal failing, or is there an ancient wisdom that has long understood the mechanics of influence, even within the closest bonds? The truth, stark and unyielding, is that the patterns of influence woven into the fabric of human interaction are not new. They are as old as civilization itself, meticulously observed and codified by strategists whose names echo through history, figures like Sun Tzu or Machiavelli. Before you recoil, understand this: we are not here to advocate for the dark arts of manipulation, nor to suggest you become a ruthless operator in your own home. Instead, we are here to pull back the curtain, to expose the underlying principles of strategic thinking and human behavior that the architect of manipulation might unconsciously employ, often without a shred of malice. This isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about understanding the blueprint of the fire itself so you can contain it, redirect it, or simply choose to walk away from its heat. For the seeker, this knowledge is not a weapon of aggression, but a shield of discernment. It's the difference between being a pawn, moved by unseen forces across the chessboard of the family nexus, and becoming a player who understands the game, anticipates moves, and ultimately dictates their own presence on the board. Imagine stepping into a high-stakes poker game, knowing the rules, understanding the tells, and recognizing the patterns of your opponents. You wouldn't necessarily bluff or cheat, but you would play with an informed confidence, protecting your chips and your emotional well-being. This is the transformation we're talking about, from reactive vulnerability to proactive empowerment. The hidden truth, often obscured by layers of expectation and affection within the family nexus, is that manipulation isn't always born of overt malice. It rarely manifests as a villain cackling in a dimly lit room, plotting your downfall. More often, it's an unconscious, almost instinctual play for control, a desperate grab for validation, or a subtle effort to maintain a familiar, albeit dysfunctional, status quo. Consider the parent who guilt-trips the seeker into sacrificing their own plans for a family obligation, or the sibling who subtly undermines the seeker's achievements to feel more secure in their own lane. These actions, while damaging, frequently stem from the architect's own insecurities, their ingrained patterns of seeking attention, or their learned belief that this is simply how family operates. They might genuinely believe they are acting in the seeker's best interest, or simply doing what they've always done, without ever truly reflecting on the impact of their words and actions. It's a generational echo, a deeply embedded script that plays out again and again within the sacred yet often complicated space of family. The architect of manipulation often exploits the seeker's most admirable qualities, their profound empathy, their deep-seated desire for harmony, and their tendency to overthink every nuance. The seeker feels the weight of unspoken expectations, internalizes the subtle digs, and agonizes over the potential fallout of setting a boundary. This empathetic nature makes the seeker a prime target because they are predisposed to consider others' feelings, to avoid conflict, and to seek resolution. When the architect deploys a passive-aggressive comment, a veiled criticism, or a dramatic sigh, the seeker's inner sanctum goes into overdrive. They dissect the words, analyze the tone, and project countless potential scenarios, each one leading them further into mental paralysis. The desire for harmony becomes a self-imposed prison, where the seeker sacrifices their own peace to maintain an illusion of family tranquility, often at great personal cost. They become so entangled in the web of what-ifs and should-haves that their ability to respond clearly and assertively is completely compromised. It's like trying to run a marathon with invisible chains, constantly pulling you back, making every step a struggle. But here is where the seeker begins to reclaim their power. Knowledge is not just power, it is freedom. By understanding the game, by recognizing the unconscious strategies at play, the seeker can choose not to participate on unfavorable terms. You cannot control what others do, but you absolutely control how you respond, how you interpret, and how you protect your own inner world. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about becoming strategically aware, about developing the emotional intelligence to navigate these complex interactions without losing yourself in the process. It's about recognizing the subtle currents beneath the surface, the unspoken rules, and the hidden agendas, so you can steer your own ship rather than being tossed about by the waves of others' expectations. This journey begins with a conscious decision, a powerful declaration that shifts the paradigm within your inner sanctum. From this moment forward, you are choosing to see clearly, to understand deeply, and to act intentionally. This is why we introduce your first affirmation, a bedrock principle to anchor you in this new understanding. From this moment forward, I choose clarity over confusion. Let these words resonate within you, a silent vow to yourself. If this message speaks to you, if you are ready to embrace this clarity, I urge you to type this affirmation into the comments right now. Make it real. Make it a commitment. This is not just an exercise. It is the first step in dismantling the mental paralysis that has held you captive. In the next moments, we will delve into specific, actionable principles derived from these ancient strategies, principles designed not to make you a manipulative force, but to empower you to navigate the family nexus with an unshakable sense of self and an unwavering commitment to your own well-being. Are you ready to learn the first principle that will redefine your family interactions? Your readiness is not merely a willingness to learn. It is the ignition for a profound transformation, a journey into understanding the subtle mechanics of your family interactions. This path begins with Principle 1, the art of the pause, retaking your inner sanctum. For too long, the seeker, your empathetic nature and analytical mind have inadvertently set a trap for yourself. When confronted by a loaded comment or an unspoken expectation from the architect of manipulation within the family nexus, your initial instinct is often to engage immediately. Your mind races, cycling through every possible angle, every defense, every potential misunderstanding. This rapid-fire mental processing, this overthinking, doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to an immediate reactive response, or worse, to the dreaded mental paralysis where words fail you entirely. This reactive loop is precisely what the architect often unknowingly exploits. They present a stimulus, and you, driven by a desire for harmony or a need to explain yourself, fall right into their rhythm. Imagine a high-stakes poker game where one player reveals their hand too early, or a football team that always runs the same play on third down. Predictability is vulnerability. Your immediate reaction, your impulse to defend or justify, is your exposed hand, your predictable play. This is where the wisdom of the ancients, particularly the Stoics, becomes your most potent weapon. Seneca, a master of self-control, once wisely declared, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." While your family interactions might not always involve outright anger, they often involve intense emotional currents, subtle pressures, and the potential for emotional distress. Seneca's principle extends far beyond mere anger. It speaks to the power of delaying any immediate, emotionally charged reaction. It's about creating a strategic gap, a mental buffer between the external stimulus and your internal response. This conscious delay is not about avoidance. It is about reclaiming territory. It is about taking back command of the inner sanctum, your own mind, from the immediate external pressure exerted by the architect. When a manipulative comment or a demanding request lands in the family nexus, perhaps at the Thanksgiving dinner table or during a tense group chat, your old pattern would be to instantly formulate a defense or feel a surge of anxiety. But with the art of the pause, you learn to hit the brakes. You consciously choose to delay your verbal or emotional engagement. This brief, powerful moment of silence is your strategic advantage. It prevents the cascade of overthinking from culminating in mental paralysis, instead buying you invaluable time for strategic thought. It's like a quarterback calling a timeout just before a critical play, not out of panic, but to reassess the defense and formulate a winning strategy. Consider a common scenario. The architect makes a passive-aggressive remark about your life choices, perhaps implying you're not living up to some unspoken family expectation right there in the middle of a casual family get-together. Your old self, the seeker, would immediately feel a flush of defensiveness, your mind racing to list all the reasons why their comment is unfair, or perhaps you just clam up, stewing in silent resentment. But now, armed with the art of the pause, you don't jump to defend. You don't get trapped in their narrative. Instead, you calmly meet their gaze, a slight, almost imperceptible shift in your posture, and you deploy one of your new power phrases. You might say with genuine composure, "That's an interesting point, I'll need some time to consider it," or if the demand is more direct, "Let me get back to you on that." For a more complex issue, I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll give it the thought it deserves and circle back when I've had a chance to reflect. The power in these statements lies not just in the words themselves, but in the deliberate, unhurried delivery. You are not being rude. You are establishing a boundary, honoring your own mental space, and signaling that you will not be rushed into a reaction. You are choosing to respond strategically rather than react impulsively. The majority of people, caught in the emotional currents of family dynamics, react instantly, often defensively, giving the architect exactly what they subconsciously seek, a reaction they can then further manipulate or dismiss. But the seeker will now stand apart. You will be the one who controls the tempo, the one who refuses to be swept away by the immediate tide of emotion. This pause is your first line of defense, a shield against the mental paralysis that once left you speechless and vulnerable. It transforms a moment of potential weakness into a display of quiet strength, a subtle yet profound shift in the power dynamic within the family nexus. This is the initial step in truly dismantling the invisible chains of manipulation, allowing you to breathe, think, and act with intention. But once you've paused, how do you even begin to dissect what's truly happening and what hidden tactics are at play? The silence that stretched after a deliberate pause was not empty. It was a canvas upon which the true colors of the family nexus began to reveal themselves. This newfound space, carved out by the seeker's conscious effort, was now ripe for a deeper kind of observation, a strategic reconnaissance into the often unseen currents of family interaction. This brings us to Principle 2, decoding the subtext, unmasking the architect's moves. The art of the pause, as you've learned, buys you precious seconds, a brief reprieve from the emotional onslaught. But what do you do with those seconds? How do you transform that momentary stillness into an advantage? The answer lies in looking beyond the superficial, in understanding that words are often just the tip of an iceberg, with vast, submerged intentions lurking beneath. Sun Tzu, the ancient master of strategy, famously advised, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." In the family nexus, the architect of manipulation is not necessarily an enemy in the traditional sense, but understanding their patterns, their motivations, and their subtle tactics is paramount to safeguarding the seeker's emotional well-being and preventing mental paralysis. The seeker, with their inherent empathy and analytical mind, often falls prey to the surface-level meaning of words, taking them at face value, or worse, internalizing them without question. This is precisely where the architect finds their leverage. Their moves are rarely overt. They are whispers, suggestions, loaded statements designed to trigger specific emotional responses. Your task now, during that critical pause, is to become a master cryptographer, to break the code of these subtle communications. Let's equip the seeker with the practical tools to recognize these common manipulative tactics. Imagine the seeker is at the family nexus, perhaps during a Sunday dinner, a seemingly innocuous gathering. The architect might lean in, a look of concern etched onto their face, and say, I just worry about you, dear. You're always so busy. Maybe you should prioritize family more. On the surface, it sounds like genuine concern, perhaps even a gentle suggestion. But the seeker, now armed with Principle 2, doesn't stop there. In the inner sanctum, their mind, once a chaotic battlefield of overthinking, now becomes a focused analytical engine. They ask themselves, what is the real message here? What emotion is the architect trying to evoke? What outcome are they hoping for? This particular statement, I just worry about you, dear. You're always so busy. Maybe you should prioritize family more, is a classic example of guilt tripping. The architect isn't merely expressing worry. They are subtly implying that the seeker's current priorities are wrong, that their busyness is a failure to care for family, and that the seeker is somehow letting everyone down. The desired outcome is for the seeker to feel a pang of guilt, to question their own schedule, and perhaps to adjust their plans to better suit the architect's unspoken desires, whether it's more visits, more help, or simply more attention. The seeker decodes this. This isn't about my well-being, it's about shifting my focus to what they want, using guilt as the lever. Another tactic the seeker frequently encounters is gaslighting. This is far more insidious, designed to make the seeker doubt their own perception, memory, and sanity. The architect might say, I never said that, you're imagining things, or you're too sensitive. Why do you always twist my words? Or even, that never happened, you must be mistaken. When the seeker recalls a specific event or conversation clearly, and the architect vehemently denies it, the seeker's inner sanctum can quickly descend into confusion. Before Principle 2, this would lead to frantic self-doubt. Am I going crazy? Did I really misremember? Maybe I am too sensitive. Now, during the pause, the seeker recognizes the pattern. They recall other instances where their reality was challenged. They understand this is not about their memory failing. It's a deliberate attempt to undermine their confidence, to make them question their own judgment, thereby making them more pliable. This isn't about truth. It's about control through confusion. Then there's the tactic of playing the victim. The architect might sigh dramatically, it's just so hard for me, no one ever helps me out, or I guess I'm just destined to struggle alone. This isn't a plea for genuine support. It's a strategic maneuver to elicit sympathy and obligation from the seeker. The subtext is clear. You should feel sorry for me, and therefore you should do something for me, or feel bad if you don't. The seeker's empathy, their greatest strength, is weaponized against them. But with Principle 2, the seeker now sees through the performance. They observe the architect's history, their capacity for independence when it suits them, and the pattern of these victim narratives always preceding a request or an expectation. This isn't about helplessness. It's about manipulating my desire to help into an obligation. Finally, the seeker often faces subtle comparisons. The architect might casually remark, your cousin, bless her heart, is so good at managing her finances, she always has everything perfectly in order. Or, it's wonderful how your sister always makes time for Mom, no matter how busy she is. These aren't compliments to others, they are veiled criticisms aimed directly at the seeker. The intention is to make the seeker feel inadequate, to foster a sense of competition or inferiority, and to pressure them to conform to the architect's idealized standards, often without explicitly stating those standards. The seeker's inner sanctum used to be plagued by these comparisons, leading to feelings of not being good enough. Now they recognize the pattern. This isn't about praising someone else. It's about subtly belittling me to make me strive for their approval. The beauty of Principle 2 is how it reframes the seeker's natural tendency to overthink. Before, overthinking was a trap, a descent into mental paralysis, a whirlpool of self-doubt and anxious rumination. Now it becomes a superpower. That same analytical intensity, when consciously directed, transforms into a powerful tool for discernment. Instead of endlessly replaying scenarios and agonizing over what they might mean, the seeker now uses that mental energy to decode what is truly happening. They are actively analyzing the architect's language, tone, body language, and the context of the interaction, searching for the underlying motive, the unspoken demand, the hidden agenda. This is not about becoming cynical, but about becoming strategically aware. It's about recognizing that not all communication is straightforward, especially within established family dynamics, where power structures and ingrained patterns often dictate interaction. This new approach empowers the seeker to detach emotionally for a moment, to observe from a more objective standpoint, and to identify the psychological game being played. The fog of confusion begins to lift, replaced by the clarity of understanding. As the seeker practices this, they will feel a shift. The initial jolt of a manipulative statement will still register, but it will no longer trigger the immediate cascade into mental paralysis. Instead, it will activate the analytical process. It's like seeing the strings of a puppet show. Even if the puppet master tries to hide them, this discernment becomes a shield, protecting the seeker's emotional core. Remember this, the seeker. I am a master of discernment, seeing clearly what is hidden. Repeat this affirmation. Let it resonate within the inner sanctum. It is a declaration of your newfound power, a testament to your ability to cut through the noise and perceive the truth. You are not just reacting, you are observing, analyzing, and understanding. You are no longer a passive participant in the architect's narrative. You are an active interpreter of reality. This journey of understanding, this unmasking of the architect's subtle maneuvers, is transformative. You've learned to pause, to create space. You've learned to decode, to see beyond the surface. You've transformed your overthinking from a weakness into a strategic advantage, making you less susceptible to manipulation and more empowered in your family interactions. The confusion that once paralyzed you is replaced by clarity, and with clarity comes the ability to act with intention, not reaction. This is not the end of your journey, but a powerful beginning. You now possess the strategic intelligence to navigate the complex landscape of the family nexus with a newfound sense of self-possession. You have moved from a place of vulnerability to one of profound strength, armed with the knowledge that allows you to see the hidden currents. But understanding the game is only half the battle. Once you've identified the game, once you've decoded the subtext and unmasked the architect's moves, how do you respond in a way that protects your boundaries without igniting a family war? How do you assert your truth and maintain your peace in the family nexus without creating a seismic emotional event? The tools you've gained are not just for analysis, but for action. They are for shaping your reality, for reclaiming your autonomy, and for ensuring your emotional well-being remains uncompromised. This journey has been about empowering you, the seeker, to reclaim your narrative and stand firm in your truth. You've learned to pause, to observe, to decode. These are not merely techniques, they are fundamental shifts in perception that will serve you not just in the family nexus, but in all areas of your life. You are no longer defined by the expectations or manipulations of others. You are defined by your own strength, your own discernment, and your unwavering commitment to your peace. The path to unshakable boundaries and true emotional freedom is a continuous one, but you now have the foundational principles to walk it with confidence. Embrace this new perspective, apply these insights, and watch as the dynamics around you begin to shift. You have the power to create a healthier, more authentic reality for yourself. If this video has illuminated your path, if it has provided you with the clarity and tools you've been seeking, then take a moment to hit that like button. Share your own experiences with decoding family subtext in the comments below. Your insights could be the missing piece for someone else on this journey. And if you're ready to continue building your strategic intelligence and empowering your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into mastering the complexities of human interaction. The power to transform your reality is within you, and your journey of empowerment has just truly begun.